Have you ever felt like you don't have a purpose in life? Ask yourself if this is it? This is the life I have? Do I have to accept it like this? Like something is missing, but you can't quite see how it would be to live it differently. Or maybe you already know your purpose deep inside, but somehow there's still something holding you back from truly living it. Welcome to Living Spiritual Greatness. I'm your host, May Wenger, and I want to invite you on a journey to finding and living your purpose. Knowing and following our inner calling gives our lives meaning and clarity, but most of all, it gives us strength and a true reason to live. Come join me in this movement to make this world more purposeful by letting go of our fears, old patterns, attachments, and resistance, and stepping into our real inner truth. Enjoy today's show. Hi, and welcome everybody to another beautiful episode here on the podcast. I'm so excited and I'm so happy because this is like the furthest away interview I've ever done, I think. I'm sitting in Panama and Sharee is sitting in Melbourne. Hi, Sharee.
Yes. Hi.
How are you?
Very well. And you?
Yes, very well. Enjoying our talk already, and I'm so excited to dive deeper into you, into your work and what you do. Maybe for starters, for all our listeners out there that don't know you yet, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do, what your passion is?
Oh, great. So I became a counsellor. I've probably been a counsellor now for about 16 years. And around about 4 years ago, I started learning about hypnotherapy and Psyche. If you know Dr. Bruce Lipton, he talks about Psyche a lot. So energy, psychology, healing, and obviously I got into life coaching and started doing my own business, helping people, get the results that they're looking for. So it's been I've always been in the personal development field, but really having a bit of a toolbox in terms of helping people and getting them to really look at their identity and find their purpose in life.
Nice. How would you say was the difference of being, I'm going to put it in like the normal counselor and now becoming like this life coach that has different tools? Because I think the main difference is probably the tools, but how is it for you? Like, how is it different? What made you say that, okay, I don't want to be a counselor anymore. I want to go and use different tools for my clients?
I don't have this title. Like, I don't say I'm just a counsellor, I'm a hypnotherapist, I just say I'm a coach because I use different tools. And I still use the counselling tools. I use it. It's like I feel like a bit of a mechanic, So I've got all these little tools in my box, and I look at the client. Do I use this tool for this issue right now, or that one, or therapy here? I don't know, so it just depends. So I kind of tailor make it, and I find it a bit more refreshing in a way because I'm not sort of limited to one modality. So no, I like it, and I was curious because as a counsellor, we didn't know anything about the subconscious brain, and so hypnotherapy gave me this whole other pathway, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. I had no idea, and it's actually quite interesting because how I started getting into the whole hypnotherapy thing was the fact that I had my last child, and I don't do the whole stay home mum thing well. And when I stayed home, I was realizing I got into a pattern, where I started like, well, I'll just keep my pajamas on all day because I'm not going anywhere. And then I started not enjoying my life, and I had to realize that life was just happening and I wasn't involved in it. So when the baby just sort of takes over your life, doesn't it? So I was like, by the end of the day, I had no time for myself. So I started looking at habits and how we can change habits, and how does the brain work, and how does all that work? So I got into that, and then I realized the subconscious plays a big part in that. And so I thought, I started learning about that. And then I decided to do a 5 a.m. club, because I realised that if we get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, then I've got more time to do all the things I want to do. And the rest of the day, my baby can sort of, take the rest of my day. I don't have to, at least I've enjoyed my time for myself in the morning. So that's how it kind of started. And I was fascinated by the subconscious brain and how much it controls our life. And so, no, I love it all.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
Yeah.
I like that you were saying that part with the subconscious brain. For me, it was when I started learning Hawaiian philosophies, where I actually learned on, I had heard about the subconscious before, but what I liked about their way of looking, or their, how do you say, explanation of it, was to make your subconscious your friend. And then
Yes.
and allowing it to be there, and then you can work with it and actually transform so many things inside of you, right?
Yes.
So beautiful. How would you say does your purpose live inside of what you do?
That's a good question, actually. I think purpose is not one thing. I thought about when I was a kid, my purpose was to become a counsellor, and then I became a counsellor, and then that changed to, I want to be a mother. So then that was my new purpose. And then, I became a mother, and then I was like, now my purpose is to help people, like a lot more, like, do a lot more helping. And as I've gotten older, now it's spirituality. Like, it's just sort of, it morphs into different things, and that's okay. And you don't have to have one single purpose. You can have many, and it's the same like identity. You don't need to have the same identity. You can change it, and I think people get stuck on that a lot. Oh, well, this is my identity because that's how people see me, so that's who I'm going to become. I go, no, you can change your identity. If you don't like who you are, you can change it. Like, you can change your purpose. It's okay.
Oh yeah, I find that so important that you say that, because I often feel when people think of purpose, and especially the life purpose, not a purposeful day, but if you think of the huge life purpose, it's such a huge word, and then you want to have that definition, but maybe because it's so big, you don't even dare to actually look into it. But allowing yourself to be a little bit playful with it, and allow yourself to have it change and shift throughout your life. Because I think sometimes we still have this subconsciously, that sentence inside of us, like it used to be, you used to have, like, you were born into, for example, into a shaman's family, and then of course your grandfather would come up to you and say, your purpose, you're going to be the next big shaman, and then that was in there. Or you were born into a family of doctors, so you had to become a doctor, and it was always like this huge thing in life. But instead of doing that, to breaking it down and allowing it to be soft and, like you said, changeable. It's so beautiful. Yeah. How was it for you to allow yourself to do, like, to actually, or was it just like, okay, today my purpose is this? Did you always know that, or did you also go through a process to allow yourself to have a change of approach?
I think initially I thought I had to have one purpose, and I thought that's it, that's my purpose, and that's it. And then when I achieved that purpose, I was like, okay, what next? Like, what do I do now? Like, that's done. So does that mean I stay stagnant? And I'm like, no, just need to grow and evolve more now. It's time to do more and change it, and that's okay. We put too much pressure on ourselves, I think. That we have to have one true purpose, and it has to be really massive, but it could be very small. Like, I was talking to someone recently about legacy. They're going to have to leave this big, giant legacy to someone. Like, has to be something tangible. And I'm like, no, you can leave many legacies. You could, just by changing someone's day, just one person in one day is a legacy. And they I never saw it that way. I'm like, like, you just, I don't know. That's how I see it. Like, I remember a couple of years back, I was at the shopping centre with my children, and this guy came up to me and said, "Oh, thank you, you saved my life." And I recognised the face, couldn't think of the name. Took a while for me to work it out, but it was one of my past clients that was quite suicidal, and I was like, "Oh yes, yeah," and I was like, "Oh," I kind of remembered bits and pieces. I'm like, because it was such a long time ago, and I was like, "Yes, no worries." And then my kids were like, "Who's that?" And I'm like, "Oh, just someone I've helped many, many years ago," and that was a profound experience because I helped. I wouldn't say I was the only, but I helped change that person's life. He's got his own kids and family, and they got to see their father, still living, and he was in a really bad place at one stage of his life, and he's turned his whole life around. And I was like, wow, that's what legacy means to me.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And what I like about that story is the thing is that it can happen also in little things, right? I mean, in your case, it was actually the job you were doing, but how many times have you done that with a friend, for example?
Yes, that's right.
And that, right? And you change their lives just by having a conversation with them, right?
Yeah, you don't know that one phone call that you made to that friend, what was going through that friend's mind at that particular time. You might not ever know.
Exactly. And I think it's not always about, I'm getting to that point that maybe sometimes it's because we want to have acknowledgement for it, like someone that tells us, "Oh my God, you did good, that was a good," like you did a great job. But it's so hidden sometimes in little things that we might even see it, that, hey, that was me doing that, but that person might not see it. But it doesn't matter as long as we know, we were able to help them somehow.
Yeah, I believe every single person has value. Every single person. And you just don't know how much value you have until you really think about how many times that you walk down the street and you say hello to someone who may be having, that smile and that hello could mean so much to that particular person.
Oh yeah, I know. Or just a smile. And suddenly they smile too, and then they have a, beautiful day.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Yeah, and I like having, and I think in the end, there's still an overall purpose, but it's not as, like you said, it's not so big, because in your case, it's always been about helping people. And even when you had your purpose of being a mother, you were still helping people, because I mean, they were tiny and they came out of you, but I mean, still you were helping them, right?
Yeah, I've had lots of clients in the past also who their purpose could have been like, oh, I want to have a partner and have children, and that didn't happen for them. And they're like, well, especially a lot of women would say to me, oh, well, I can't even see myself as a woman because I'm not a wife or a mother. And that's pretty really intense emotions that come out of that. And I'm like, well, do you have anyone that you can love? It doesn't have to be a partner, but just love in general as a friends, relatives. And do you have family members or friends, kids that you can be part of? Because that's still, don't underestimate the relationship you can have with other people's kids, or family members' kids. Because I know with my own children, I really value lots of my friends who, I have a big involvement in their life, and they, if my kids have issues, that they don't just come to me. They've got a whole resource of family and friends that they could go to, and that's what I wanted. And that's why I'm like, well, it doesn't mean that just because you didn't, have these children yourself, doesn't mean they're not still your kids in a way. Makes sense?
Yes, definitely, and I can relate so much to it. For me, I came from a, how do you say, like well, I don't know, like that picture. Maybe some of you know Latin. I was born in Ecuador and had this whole Latin American thing. And in Latin America, everything is about, especially for the women, is, you grow up, you get married, you have kids, and um, and I thought, or like we said earlier, sometimes we get those things in our subconscious. So I have to do that to be worth as a woman as well, right?
Yes.
But through time and through my own process, I started realizing and I have to say, I love children. Really, I do love children. I'm really great hanging out with them, taking care of them. I've actually organized kids' parties, birthday parties for friends and everything. And I love that. But the older I get, the more I realize it's just not my purpose to be a mother. It's,
No, no.
I'm going to be the greatest aunt ever. And, you know, like I'm there and I still have so many beautiful connections to other children. And in a way, sort of my job, everything that I create through my job is also my children. You know, my little projects and
Yes.
my clients are sort of also representing kids that you know, of course it's a whole different process of actually having, you know, being pregnant and having children, but you can still
Yeah,
find the joy in all those things the same way.
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that for some reason that value gets lost somewhere, because society tells us that no, you have to do X, Y, and Z. But no, that's not correct. You don't have to do
Yeah.
all the stuff we're supposed to do. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like those special boxes. If you don't fit in that box, we need to, you know, crush you
Yeah.
so that you fit in that box. And it's like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
How would you say was it for you um, with those boxes, for example? Because I could imagine that someone, because I mean, you already knew you wanted to be a counselor, but then making the move from counselor to life coach, well, it's not so different, but it's still a little bit, I can still imagine some people telling you like, no, that's not a good box.
yeah, it was a bit of a transition for me, because as a counsellor, we didn't recognise hypnotherapists, but that's very alternative. And life coaches, well, they don't have the qualifications like us. There was this us and them, and I'm like, no, it's all the same. It's the purpose is to help people, and doesn't matter what tools you're using, as long as it works. You know. So it took a while to make that switch that it's okay.
Yeah, no, and I think it's so important, of course, like you said, it's not us and them. It's we can all work together in this whole system.
Yeah.
Because I remember back in my dark days when I had to go to a therapist, and I would still have my shamanic studies and my other teachers that were helping me. And it was a really nice work together, instead of, you know, like, if you're doing this, you're only allowed to go to this. It's not, you can all win from everything. Yeah.
No. Yeah. No, and I think to be honest, clients don't really care what tools you're using, just as long as they get the result. That's all they can focus on. They don't care if they don't say to you, oh, are you using NLP right now? They don't care. They just want the result. So it's yeah. I think some practitioners are so fixated by, you know, what they're using, the tool they're using, but the focus really is about the client.
Yeah, definitely. And of course of the person, because they want to, like, if they trust you, they want to, it doesn't matter how, as long as you can help them to move forward. Yeah. And I think this is important, because I mean, we're talking in purpose in general, right? And not everybody of the listeners are going to be counselors or therapists, but I think this is something that applies to any kind of job. You for yourself can always, like you said, because I feel that people sometimes don't allow themselves to live their purpose, because it's like, oh, but everybody's doing this, everybody's, you know, like, how am I going to be the one sticking out? But the thing is that everybody sticks out because you are you know, like, everybody is,
that's right,
special person.
Yeah, it's so true, because everyone's unique. Like our fingerprints, it's very unique. And like, I work with different coaches and practitioners, and they're like, oh, you know, I had a client once that said to me, oh, so do you don't compete? And I'm like, no, because we're all different. We all work differently. And if I see a client that would be a better match with somebody else, then I'll refer on, because it's not about me. It's about the result that person will get. And that's what you do. So I think sometimes we get too attached to who we are. And I have a lot of clients say to me, oh, I'm just a, whatever the fill the blank, you know. I'm like, you're not just a, you know. You know, like, I've got, you know, I'm just a barista. No, you could be the best coffee maker like, it's like you put passion into making that coffee. It's love, and that's what I think purpose is really love. It's just
Oh,
an exchange of energy of love. That's all you're doing. It doesn't
yes,
matter what it is, how you package it up.
yes.
It's
That's
just
so
love.
beautiful, and yeah, and you're so right, because it's basically, if you fall, oh, and that also goes into like our purpose is our passion, right? And
Mm,
if I do that all passionately, whatever is created through that work or job or whatever, however you want to name it, is going to be filled with love. And if you, it's like
mm.
when you cook. If you don't feel
Yeah,
like cooking, you're not going to cook something nice. And if you feel like cooking and you're all, oh my God, I'm enjoying putting these things together, and then it's going to, you're going to feel the love in the food. And it's the same with
yeah.
everything. Yeah, that's
And so I
beautiful.
think when you trying to find your purpose, that's what you have to look at. What is it that I love doing? What is it that, you know what, when I do it, I go into a flow state. I don't even know what time it is. Like, I'm with clients sometimes, I don't look at the time. I don't say, oh, an hour's time's up. I can't do that. I've never done that. They really get, sometimes I get 2 to 3 hours. I don't really care, because I just don't think about the time. I think about the exchange of love that I'm giving them at that moment, and that's it. That's all that matters, you know. And that's what you're doing. You're just exchanging that energy of love to that person, and you know, like I said, you could be the. I was hearing about this humble sushi maker in Japan. He had this little sushi stand, and you know, very humble stand, and people from all around the world would fly over to Japan just to eat his sushi, because
Oh
he
my
just,
God,
it was
yes.
this little morsel of sushi was just packaged with so much love.
Oh yes, and I think he even got Michelin stars, right? I think I've
Yeah,
heard of that
yeah,
one.
yes,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
so, yeah, and that's the thing. And there are so many other people doing sushi, but his had his specialty in it, right?
yes,
Yeah, the superpower that we were talking earlier, but we'll get to that later.
yes, yeah,
But yeah, but yeah, I think that's so important. Um, and I think it's also a very important, how do you say, guidance to finding your purpose. If you
yeah,
follow the passion, follow whatever happens with light, like you said, the flow. When you're in the flow, you're just in that state of yes, and that's when things can be created and happen. And I would actually add one more thing: allow yourself to be everything at that moment. Like you said earlier,
mm,
with like your purpose can move, it can also
yes,
move in the same time, right? Like you don't have to, like, even if you're thinking that right now your purpose is to be the barista, and then you come home and you feel the flow of taking your guitar and making music, then that's going to be your purpose in that moment, right?
that's right. So,
Yeah. Yes, there we go. There we're back again.
sorry, I
Sorry.
lost you a little bit. Sorry.
Yes, no, I think it's me because we're having rainy season, but I hope in the recording is going to be good. So yes. But anyhow, yeah, no, I think that's to be able and to allow ourselves to be different kinds of things is so important. Also, I think, like you said earlier, you have this one purpose in life, but also throughout, on one linear time, you can be different things. Like, for example, in your case, what we were talking earlier, you're also an author.
Yes.
So, and that
Yes,
also came out of
starting.
a flow, right? I know,
Yeah,
but that also came out of a flow that you wanted to create something, right? And
yes,
so you
yes,
have a time set during your day where that is your purpose, to be writing books. I'm gonna add
yeah.
more just in case. but, but how
Yeah,
was
it
that for
wasn't
you to embrace those different sides of yourself?
um I don't know, I just think it wasn't, I didn't wake up one day and say, oh, I want to become an author. It wasn't like that. It was just more like, oh, I saw there was a bit of a need for this type of content. And so I thought,
Mm.
well, how can I package it up the best way for kids? Because it's a kids book that I'm writing at the moment. And I thought, oh, well, just produce a book. That's the best way. And, you know, it's something that will hopefully get the message across. And it really is just education. It's still coaching, but in a in a kid's book format, just a different format. That's how I see it. So I actually wrote the book really in, I know it sounds really silly, but in 1 hour. Obviously it wasn't edited in 1 hour, but I wrote it, it just flowed out of me in terms of I knew exactly what I wanted to convey. And I had someone come up to me and say, oh, how did you come up with the title, like the names of the characters? And I go, I don't know, I just made it up and it just came out. And it sounds silly, but that's what happened. And that's how it happened. It just came out, and I just the first kind of name that came into my head, that's what I put down as a character. I didn't really overthink it, and because the minute you overthink things and you start to, oh, but does this, no, just let it all out and then get it edited later. That's fine.
Yeah, and I think that's a huge point in things. On one hand, you're following yourself. You're just following in the flow. You're just letting it come through whatever wanted to come through without. I think the beautiful thing about it is that in that moment you probably didn't even stress yourself that you have to write it today or tomorrow or whatever. You were just like, okay. And I think those are very important things about living purpose, is that the more it flows, the less pressure we put on it that it has to happen, it has to be this way, and it has to fit in that box or whatever. But to just allow our lives and our purpose, our own purpose, to flow. Like you said, it's still coaching, it's still a tool basically that you're using, but it's you creating that for other people, what you create usually in a one-on-one session at home, right?
Yeah, I just had an intention in mind. I thought, what is my intention? And the intention was to help kids self-soothe and understand their true power. And when I had that intention, the book just manifested in a way. So, yeah.
Yeah, but like I said, that's so powerful. And I hope our listeners and our viewers can see that for themselves as well. How many times have you had moments where something was so amazing, where you forgot time and we were just sat down and you just created it? And creation can happen in so many ways. It doesn't always have to be, like writing a book or painting a painting, but creation can happen in so many different ways. It's just like a beautiful conversation with a friend, or for those of you doing computer stuff, or even like you said earlier with the mechanic, right? Even as a mechanic, sometimes you just get like, okay, I need to repair this part. I know this because my dad's a car mechanic, so I know that he sometimes, when he has something, he's like, oh, I'm gonna do this now. And he could probably tell me before, like, okay, I'm gonna stop working in an hour. But by the time he actually comes out of his thing, it's like 3 hours later, and he hasn't even felt it, because for him, he was just completely in his flow doing what he wanted to do, right?
It's a form of meditation, really.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a beautiful comparison, to have this as that. Oh, Sharee, this is so beautiful. How would you, like, if we have our listeners out there that would like to work with you, how you work online as well, right?
Yes, I do. So I'm actually just started a new website. So upgrading my website. So as we speak, so it's my new website is www.wellnesscoach.com.au. And I'm also on Facebook as Sharee, SHEREESHEFKET, Shefket. So on there as well. And I also have a Finding Your Life Purpose Facebook group. And you could probably put the link there or something where people can just join and get full of resources there. So, yes.
Nice. Yeah, I'm definitely going to put all the links here below in the comments in the video, and if you're doing the podcast, in the show notes, so you'll have how to. But just as a question, like, what would be the things that my clients or your clients would have to need to come and contact you?
Sorry, I just didn't hear you. Sorry.
No, like, would they have a special need that, like, where you would say, that's my specialty? This is like, if you have that.
Oh, okay. Well, I work mainly on identity. So if they've got issues in terms of who they are, and asking those questions, and that's I work with a lot of different issues, but that's probably my core, and consciousness, to actually work out what they're doing in terms of habits, because as we talked about the subconscious brain before. Some people want to change their life, but they're like, I don't know how to do that. And then, so what we do is look at all their habits.
Yeah, and that's so important. And that's so important to especially in any ways, whatever you want to create in your life. It's so beautiful. Oh, that's so good. I'm so excited. So if you guys want to find out more about yourselves and really go into your habits, all the details are below in the description box and I keep forgetting, in the show notes for the podcast. Sharee, thank you so much for your time and for this interview. It was really, really beautiful. I really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward once your book comes out, we're going to do another interview for the podcast. I'm really looking forward to that. Yay!
Oh,
there you're back.
Sorry, I
Thank
lost
you, Sharee, so much.
you for a moment.
Yeah, sorry, no
See you
worries.
later.
Thank you so much for being here, and
No
thank you
worries.
for
Thank you.
listeners.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.